The Frank Gifford show, I think, yeah, something really incredible. I did it with Chris Schenkel. I'm not quite sure. I think in 1955 we started it. Maybe during the '56 season, I'm not quite sure. But that's not important. We did it. And it was the first time I think there was an athlete that came off a football field and did his own show on television. I don't know of anyone that preceded me. Kyle Rote had gone into radio and worked for WNEW radio. And it was all of it, it happened because all of a sudden pro football was growing up. And when pro football really exploded was in 1956, when we played the Chicago Bears for the NFL championship in New York, Yankee Stadium, our first year in Yankee Stadium, and we beat them 47-7. I mean, we were like all of a sudden people knew who we were, that we couldn't walk out down the street without somebody saying, hey, and I'm pushing the baby cart, and it didn't matter. Central Park people, and it was a wonderful, wonderful feeling, having gone through these 52, 53, 54, and then things changing really when Lombardi came in '54, and you knew things were going to get better, and they did get better. Tom Landry was our defensive coach. Vince Lombardi was our offensive coach, and if you don't follow football, these two guys are both in the Hall of Fame, and were great, great coaches. And they're in the Hall of Fame as coaches. And so they made the difference for us. They turned us around. We had a wonderful season in '56, and like I said, we beat the Bears. All of a sudden, we couldn't walk down the state. And naturally, some of the media entities got involved in it, and Kyle had his radio show at WNEW. And I was, the next year, actually I was doing it that year, a show with Chris Schenkel, who was the broadcaster of the Giants game on television. And he and I had the pregame show, the Frank Gifford show, with Chris Schenkel. And we had a little board that we used, and I had like chess players, only they were football players. And I diagrammed the plays that we were going to run, and of course it was all nonsense, but it was my first taste of that. The videotape was not a thing that we used in those days. We filmed it, and cut it, and it was a manual thing, and it's incredible to think about it today, considering how things are done. So it's done, and sort of magically. But it was edited to 15 minutes, which would precede the game. The game would just come on cold, and at that time the games were blacked out in the city that you played in. That was because people wouldn't come to the game. The thinking was at the time on the part of the Commissioner Burt Bell and some of his colleagues that people would not come to the games if they were on television. Television was looked at really by a monster, and to some degree it has been a monster over the years, and it changed things enormously. And it certainly changed pro football. The billions of dollars today spent, the revenue for the NFL's revenue for football from television is incredible. Not to mention the revenue to the individual teams from radio. But in 1956, that real turning point is where it all began. And I don't think in '56 there was even a network contract. The local Dumont network carried the game, and they carried on channel 7 or 9 or 10 or whatever the heck it was. And we had a great year, and things began to change enormously.